Welcome, everybody, to Cinema Royale. I am Travis Hobson of PunchdrunkCritics.com, and this week we're going to be talking about two movies that I'm going to tell you right now. I like them both. Turning Red, which is Pixar's latest, and I forgot about the other one already, which is kind of crazy.
Adam Project.
Yeah, the Adam Project, which I should have remembered since I liked it so much. And the guy you just heard talking right there is my old friend, Brandon Fibbs.
Hello,
Brandon Fibbs. You might not know Brandon. He's been out of the DC area for a while, but you'll have to indulge me here for a second, Brandon. I've been doing this for like 15 years now. As crazy as that sounds, it's been 15 years since my first screening that I ever attended here in DC. And you guys know me. Anybody who watches the show and reads the site knows me. I don't really give a shit about anybody or what anybody else is doing or anything like that. This guy right here, though, was the only person I was ever intimidated by their review.
What?
The only person, because you are so damn brilliant and so damn perfect with the way you say things. I hated it because you always made things I thought sounded a million.
You're crazy.
And he still does it now, only on Facebook. And I'm always jealous of him, even to this day, after 15 years. He's my friend, Brandon Fibbs. How you doing, man?
Dude, you're very kind. Thank you so very much. I am doing well, sir. I am doing well,
man. It is the absolute truth. You're the only person, dude. I'm always that guy right there can make anything sound awesome.
Now you've just set me up for complete failure.
No, man, it's absolutely true. How are you, man? I missed you.
I'm well. I'm doing very well. I'm continuing to, when I left DC to stop writing about other people's television and films and start making my own, and moved to LA. And now I'm in Portland and still doing that, and worked on a bunch of mostly science and history documentaries. These days I'm working on for Discovery Channel, doing a bunch of stuff. So I'm having fun.
You guys see that big Cosmos poster back there behind him?
Yeah. Is this a podcast, or is there going to to be a video component to this?
It'll be a video component too. It's both.
Oh,
it's both.
Excellent. I'll try not to pick my nose at any point during the proceedings. Yeah. Cosmos remains my favorite thing I have ever worked on.
Yeah, and Cosmos is pretty awesome. I think a lot of people have seen that one. So, let's talk about these two movies. Let's start with Turning Red.
Turning Red.
Pixar's latest, and Pixar still they've not done a movie in theaters since Onward, which feels like a lifetime ago.
It was the last film I saw in the theaters before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And so it's like my touchstone. It's like the dividing line between normal life the day before and bad and awful modern life the day after.
Yeah, I remember that too. I think everybody remembers that, at least in our field, remembers that last movie they saw before everything kind of shut down. For me, it was My Spy. Like, I went to the screening of My Spy, and the next day it was like everything shut down, and it was like they didn't even release that movie then. Like they pushed it back. So I'd seen it when I finally released it. It had been like 6 months, and I was like, oh yeah, So it's like, yeah. But Pixar's done a few movies since Onward, all exclusively to Disney Plus. And Turning Red is about 13-year-old May, a Chinese American living in, is it Toronto or Ottawa? It was Toronto.
Toronto. Mm-hmm.
And she's like a lot of girls her age, she's hitting adolescence and so forth. She's kind of torn between being her own person and loyalty to her family and traditions. And of course, her mom is very hard on her and very strict on her. But when May gets upset, she transforms into a giant red panda, which I thought was really, really cute. Now, I people probably already know my opinions on this movie. I'm going to jump in here every now and then, but I really want to get your thoughts, Brandon, on what you thought of Turning Red. It's a movie that's had a lot of kind of controversies swirling around about it, but I want to get your initial thoughts on what you felt about the film.
My initial thoughts are, just because a movie is controversial doesn't mean it deserves or should be controversial. Yeah. I thought it was a beautiful film. Is it high Pixar? Perhaps not, but that's not what the controversy is about. The controversy is about completely made up, ginned up sort of issues that are as preposterous as they are offensive. I loved it. I'm sure we just lead with that controversy, and that controversy is, of course, that there are a number of critics who find the film. There's basically two things. One group of critics finds the film unrelatable, and then the other group finds it offensive because it deals with some content that they think shouldn't be addressed.
Yeah.
Both are ludicrous. But the main reason, especially going back to Cineblend, which was Sean O'Connell, wrote that very first article in which he was basically saying that I just can't relate to these people, this Asian culture in Toronto and stuff like that. And I'm just like, what do you like? Did you not relate to anyone in Schindler's List because they were European Jews and you're a Protestant American with the name O'Connell?
Yeah.
I couldn't relate to Philadelphia because it was about a gay man and I'm a straight man.
Yeah.
Or even if you just do Pixar and you're like, hey, I can't identify with Cars or Monsters Inc. or Finding Nemo because, they were cars and monsters and fish.
Trying to identify with any of them or look for anything about them that he could relate to in any kind of way.
It's real. Movies are emotional delivery vehicles, right? And to say that you can't be emotionally invested in a human experience, because even if you're making movies, of course, about toys and monsters and fish and stuff like that, that's still a movie about humans. Mm-hmm. To say that like you lack basic empathy and being able to insert yourself into these stories, I find it's preposterous and it's offensive.
Especially since the core dynamic in the movie is one we've seen a million times before. And I know he's seen it a million times before, which is, if he just watched Mulan, he's seen it. He's seen that, that dynamic. So I know he knows it. He was turned off by it for some completely different reason. And he just, and he didn't, I don't know if he didn't want to say it or he just didn't recognize it. But he
and others are perfectly allowed to not like or not be moved by a movie that everyone else seems to like. But when you go for the whole, well, I just didn't like it because I couldn't relate to it because it, it was about the Asian community.
Yeah,
you've lost me.
Yeah, exactly. It's not enough, and that's the thing that bothered me about it. If I did that, I wouldn't have liked 90% of the movies I saw.
Of course not.
Because they weren't about me. They were not. None of them were about me. Do
you really want to always only ever see movies that are just about like your little narrow, thin slice and demographic of the world? Yeah. I don't. I intentionally watch movies and art and read books and listen to podcasts and stuff like that are about things far outside of my understanding and experiences for that specific reason, because not only does it expand my world, but it allows me to be injected into places and people that otherwise I had no access to.
Yeah. And in this film in particular, look, it's definitely not aimed at me. Like, I know it's not. And that's fine. But I could relate to being a person who kind of wants to step out and be their own person. I adored the fact that it was set in the early 2000s with this horrible boy band era that we were going through at the time, because I remember it, and I was too old for it then, and I'm still too old for it now, but I remember it well. I like the way it portrayed all that stuff and how it informed her and her relationships with her friends and everything. I found a lot of things to like about it, even though they weren't speaking directly to me. And there are probably some jokes that probably flew over my head that I didn't quite understand, but there's a lot that I did manage to connect with. So,
well, and to say that like I can't identify with a movie about a teenager is to admit what you don't remember being a teenager, because while the culture in which you might be living or the technology or whatever that is going on socially may change from when you and I were teenagers compared to when Mei-Lin is a teenager in the movie, doesn't change the fact that the fundamental human things that you're going through, regardless of the world outside around you, is exactly the same. And obviously you can relate.
Yeah, exactly. And
I also find it, the other controversy, of course, being like the parents who are just like, oh my God, this film, it dealt with periods and tampons. I don't want this. It goes too far.
She's a girl. She's a girl.
For me, you're admitting you're one of those parents. If you're like, I don't want to have these conversations with my kids, then this movie is exactly the sort of movie those kids need to see, because you are absolutely failing as a parent.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. Oh my God, it's a girl who has hormones and she has feelings about boys and things like that. It's like they want that stuff to be, they want to shield their kids from that kind of stuff, which I think is the absolute worst thing to do. Yeah. But I like the fact that Pixar was willing to make this kind of movie and do that, and do it in a way that I think was easily approachable. I mean, come on.
Who's not complaining about it? 13-year-old girls who've seen it. They're all watching it going, yep, this.
Yeah, this is not complex Pixar, right? Like Pixar's done those sorts of things, that are a little bit more high-minded, you know, and those things work on their own level too. This one's not those. I understand why people.
But it still has an amazing message. You know, as I posted on Facebook the other day, you know, that you were alluding to, like the most recent Pixar films, not just Pixar, actually. I mean, I would put Encanto and other Disney properties in there. They are dealing with some really serious issues, intergenerational trauma, and how we relate to parents who have expectations that we cannot possibly live up to. There's a lot of really serious stuff being addressed in what effectively looks like a light and fluffy piece. And then once you're in it, you realize they're tackling some really heavy subjects that really need to be tackled in a way that have never been tackled before. You know, we've moved from sort of generic, addressing issues generically, to really kind of honing in on some really specific things. What's it like to be a teenage girl, teenage Asian girl in Canada, you know, and dealing with these sorts of issues with a mother who expects so damn much of you and that you can't possibly live up to. These are things that people are actually wrestling with day in and day out. And the fact that we're actually finally starting to make some films that actually speak to that is a really great. And the fact that so many people are wigging out about phenomenal minority representation just says a lot.
Heaven forbid. It's even great. It's great to see Disney doing that too, especially because they have so much influence. Yeah, to see them finally do it. We've all heard the criticisms, rightfully so, about their Disney princesses and how they're all just sort of just one type of person. It's great to see them diversifying and mixing.
Right.
I do wish this movie was in theaters though. Just I wish more, you know, people.
I don't know how they're all doing. You know, one thing you may say is, like, as you mentioned, that none of them have been dropped in theaters lately, and that will change, I think, soon enough. But at the same point, the fact that we're having this conversation, the fact that the entire country and beyond is having a conversation right now about this film, when we're not talking about Ukraine, it is testimony to the fact that these things may not be being seen in cinemas. They are still being seen. We are all watching all of these movies. And, you know, Luca and Soul and all the rest that have been dropped on television is not changing Pixar's cultural output or the fact that it's still making, you know, big waves.
Don't worry, the Ukraine movies will come. They will come if they're not already coming.
Just hopefully not Pixar. That one doesn't work. Pixar's latest. Ukraine.
I don't know, man. You might see somebody make a Grave of the Fireflies style movie.
But now that would work. That would work.
So they put the Ukrainian president's movie on Netflix now. The movie that he made.
Yep.
They put it on Netflix now.
That was a nice little move on Netflix's part to put that series back up.
I kind of want to watch it because I might go and check it out. One other thing I liked about Turning Red, before we move on to the Adam Project, the animation style I thought was a little bit different. It was a little bit more. I don't know, I called it cherubic, but it was almost a little bit like anime style in some way. And I thought that was a really nice touch, given the era, the age group, and of course the giant panda, which I think speaks more to that. I thought it was a really nice touch. Did you notice that as well? Yeah,
the animation was very different. Had a much more like kind of simplistic, sort of intentionally sort of fun quality to it. Less of a photorealistic sort of quality to it that they clearly were going for.
The film's a little bit more exaggerated, you know.
Yes, especially the third act. I mean, when you have giant pandas the size of the Tokyo Sky Dome or whatever, then you're
kaiju inspired at the
yeah, absolutely right. But also, and so was the editing. I mean, like, this was a much more frenetically paced Pixar film than we've ever seen. Obviously, because you're living in this sort of like heightened, overstimulated teenage world, but like everything was just do constantly all the time, just hit. But it worked for it.
Yeah, it really did. So we both recommend Turning Red.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about the Adam Project. And this is a reunion of Ryan Reynolds and Shawn Levy. Look, I've been talking about these two a lot lately because they did Free Guy last year. Now they did this. They're gonna be doing Deadpool 3 coming up too. Something about Shawn Levy. And I was having a conversation with somebody about it, and I was like, he's one of those filmmakers that I think I dislike. Then when I watch his movie, I don't.
I get that.
He's like, he makes these movies that I like. Night at the Museum. Why do I like the Night at the Museum movies? Like, I shouldn't. Like, they seem simple and stupid, and like, why would I like them? But I watch them, and I really enjoy them. Like all three of them.
Yeah.
Free Guy seems like it's a movie that's probably going to come and go, whatever. It's probably going to be stupid. It's absolutely amazing. And this movie as well, which I kind of dismissed when I first read about, this Shawn Levy movie. Even something like Real Steel, something like I don't think I'm going to like it. And I'm like, why do I like it? It's just something comforting about the movies that he makes. And I don't know if he's intentionally going for this sort of Amblin-esque style that he seems to have captured, which he even brings to, he's a creator on Stranger Things as well.
Mm-hmm.
But he has this ability to make these movies, these family-friendly films that just kind of just feel really warm and comforting. And the Adam Project was like that too, even though it's dealing with time travel and action, space action, and all this sorts of stuff, and really complicated family dynamics, across time, and you're like, this shouldn't work, and yet it does. I was like enjoying it. I've watched it twice. First time I was kind of distracted. Second time I really honed in on it. I was like, damn, this movie's really, really fun. Like it begins, the opening sequence like reminded me of The Last Starfighter, and then all these other elements kept coming into it. And of course, Ryan Reynolds is a lot of fun as well. He gets to be a smart mouth, but there's like some trauma to his past that makes him that way, which is different than a lot of the other characters he plays, where there's like he's just mouthy for the sake of being mouthy. I found myself loving this movie, and I really did not expect to. But this duo of Levy and Reynolds, they can't seem to miss. What did you think of the Adam Project?
I also loved it. I basically, I was just like, if again, not to like reference back to like my little Facebook post, but that's the only place anymore where I review films. and I just had a 1-sentence review, and it was like, you spell fun ADAM. It's just it was a fun movie. I think for me, my thing with Shawn Levy is we always talk about formulaic movies, and when a film goes outside formula, it has to do it really, really smartly, because that formula is an incredibly established tradition on which we have proven that things work, that these stories work this particular way.
Right.
However, if you're going to, we also criticize formulaic films because they're so predictable and we know exactly where they're going to go. And it's not as if in many ways that is not the case with Shawn Levy's films. The reason, however, for me is he has mastered the sort of formulaic blockbuster sort of way. He knows exactly how to tell them in exactly the right way that pushes all of the right fun buttons. But every single film you've mentioned, he always injects this like really strong dynamic through line of heart. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's especially even something like Adam, there is always this really, and Free Guy. When I saw Free Guy, I saw it on an airplane when I was traveling to Europe a couple months back for work. And I was like, okay, I'll just put this on as a distracting thing while I fall asleep. I didn't fall asleep. I was shocked at how good that film was, how much I enjoyed that film, and how deep and message that it had. And it's the same thing here. There's just a lot of really great heart here. The action in this film, good as it is, was my least favorite part of the film. It was the character interactions and stuff. I was like, okay, get away with stop, like, shooting people and turning them into sparkly dust. Like, get back to the banter and stuff. And I also should confess that I am not exactly impartial. I would have Ryan Reynolds' children. His babies. I love Ryan Reynolds. I've loved him since I first saw him on Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, back when it had the full title on NBC, I think it was. And ever since then, I was like,
I was a big fan of Trailer Howard back then, so I agree.
So good. But he wasn't the only good. The kid who played him was fantastic.
Very good.
And had that same sort of like rapid fire, quippy deliveriness and stuff like that. For me, there's nothing wrong with popcorn films. I do not want every film to be the sort of like deep and heavy films that I consider some of the greatest cinema ever made. Yep. I'm not always going to want to watch Lawrence of Arabia, my favorite film. There are times I want to watch something that is just fun and distracting, and these are great for that. There was also other really distracting things for bad reasons, like young Catherine Keener. But other than that, terrible, terrible, terrible thing. Everything else was
the weakest part of the movie for me, because
absolutely was.
Villain, as the I guess the villain of the movie, not a lot there for her to do with, work with, and it's just like yeah.
Also, how great was seeing Jennifer Garner again.
It's great to see Jennifer.
Bring Jennifer Garner back,
Yeah,
please.
Jennifer Garner. Always love Jennifer Garner.
Yeah.
Mark Ruffalo, and this is also really good.
He's always
up and down is really fantastic. Zoe Saldana for what she gets to do in this movie as well is really good. I like that little love story that they put in there as well. This movie, it's Shawn Levy, man. He just makes these movies. They're popcorn movies, but they have, like you said, they have so much heart to them. All of them do.
Yep.
And he's gotten so good at it. He has really truly mastered it. And I didn't think much of the Adam Project before, but I'm glad I watched it. And because it's easy to mess this kind of movie up too. Like I was thinking of like the Tomorrow War from like a year ago, which is fine, but it's not that much different. And I'm like, but it doesn't have that heart. It doesn't really have that much before it makes you remember it.
Forgot that movie the instant I turned it off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, I'm the same way. But this one is the kind of thing I want to revisit. And I hope they actually do revisit it maybe in the future because it's really, really, really fun.
The thing about time travel movies is you can always revisit it. Also, I find it funny how
you on here to talk about Star Trek or something one of these days.
Oh, we don't have time to talk about all the Star Trek stuff. And
I know.
Got the 3,000-piece Star Trek puzzle framed on my wall there. And
all this for a franchise you don't even like anymore.
That's true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's another whole podcast. Modern Star Trek. Maybe that's not true. I love the animated stuff.
I've heard Upper Decks or Lower Decks is really fun.
Lower Decks is fun, and Star Trek Prodigy is probably the best Star Trek to come out since Voyager.
Is that the one that has? Is that the one that has Janeway?
Yes.
Okay.
It's absolutely spectacular in every possible way. I absolutely love it. The live action stuff.
I thought about watching it just because it had Janeway in it, and I was like, maybe I'll revisit it.
It's worth it. It genuinely is.
Cool. All right. Maybe when the next Star Trek movie comes out, I'm gonna have you back on here. We're gonna talk Star Trek.
They keep talking about making it. If you want to get like me and my grumbly, curmudgeonly self on, I'll happily do it.
I love it when you post about how much you dislike Star Trek now. As someone who's not like really a big Star Trek fan, it makes me laugh. Like I only liked a couple of things in Star Trek, and it was Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. I haven't liked much else, but it's like every time I see you talking about it, it makes me laugh because when I remember you from years ago, you like loved it so much, and I was like, now I'm like laugh when I see you post about how bad it is.
Yep, I was probably with you at that very first Star Trek screening, 2009, going, what the hell am I watching?
Yeah, those things aren't really Star Trek movies, are they? They're something else.
They are not. They are space adventures with the name Star Trek stamped on them.
Oh man, Brandon, this has been awesome, man.
You too, man.
Anything coming up that you can tell anybody about, or anything like that, or?
The new season of Expedition Unknown got a bunch of episodes that I wrote coming out starting in May when the show comes back. Some really fun, really awesome stories.
Yeah.
A number of things that unfortunately I cannot talk about, but are coming out hopefully over the course of the year. And
we got the Orville to look forward to. That's coming up soon, right?
What's that?
They got the Orville coming up soon.
I'm very much looking forward to Orville coming back.
Right.
That is a beautiful, fun show that started off as a comedy show with some seriousness that has morphed into a serious show with some comedy, and it has more genuine heart and true Star Trek ethos than anything practically being put out by New Trek now.
I love the Orville. Yeah. You should be working on the Orville.
I wouldn't mind doing that. In fact, a lot of the people that I worked on Cosmos with are on Orville. There's a lot of turnover. So I've had a really nice time. I have enough friends and writers on that show and stuff like that I've been able to peek inside and get some nuggets and stay abreast of some things. So I think everyone's going to really like the new season. I'll never forget when Star Trek Discovery was coming out. Seth MacFarlane actually sent me a text. He's like, so I had a chance. I read the script, or I've seen Discovery or whatever. I can't remember what it was. He's like, it is dark and crappy and you're not going to like it. But I promise you, I am making something you are going to love. Just wait till you get a taste of Orville. And he was not wrong.
I think it's awesome that you're trading texts with Seth MacFarlane. So then again, you've worked with him before. So, I mean,
I've seen the man in his Ted mocap suit doing his thing. It was weird working on Cosmos, if you'll allow me just 30 seconds, because they were finishing up Ted as we were doing Cosmos. They were in post-production on Ted while we were doing pre-production on Cosmos. And so literally like you'd see Seth in a mocap suit doing all of his goofy antics for Ted, you know, whether it's like, you know, in a grocery store kind of, you know, making some gestures that we cannot even talk about on a family friendly podcast. And then he'd sit down and be like, okay, let's talk about black holes. It was hilarious.
Awesome stuff, man. I can't wait to see more from you, and hopefully one of these days I'll get to see you again in person. Like I said,
absolutely.
And next time I come out to the West Coast, maybe I'll swing by and say hello if you're in town.
Anytime.
Brandon Fibbs, thank you for joining me to talk about Turning Red and the Adam Project. I am Travis Hobson. This has been Cinema Royale. You can check me every day at punchdrunkcritics.com, on social media, on Twitter, at Punchy Critic, and at PDC Movies, and of course a number of other places. Just type in Travis Hobson Film Critic.
You'll find him. Easy. He's there.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. I will see you next week. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.